Hi, I'm Kristen Lemke, and with me is Katie Albert and Dr. Fran Oates. We're honoring, as part of our 18th year with one-to-one coaching women, we're each month going to take one of the women from our community and learn their story, share their story. And we really want this opportunity to be presented as a way to get to know the phenomenal women that are in our OTO community. So today we're going to talk to Fran, and Fran is our first honoree, and she has been with us since the very, very beginning. So that means 18 years. And Fran is the founder and president of Seeing Ourselves Anew. She's a life coach. She's also a social justice coach, and she's currently teaching a course called Social Justice and Me. So thanks for coming to chat with us, Fran. Um, and thank you for being a part of one-to-one for so long. I wanted to talk briefly about, I was trying to go back and forth between how you became a coach and how that led you to one-to-one, or what is your story about how you came to one-to-one?
I became a coach, and I started getting coaching like most people through trauma, through life's experiences, and learning, not knowing what to do and not knowing what to do next, but just going day by day and coping. And so I met a woman who knew a woman that was a life coach, and I had never heard of that. In 2004, during that time, in the early 2000s, life coaching was not as popular or as well known as it is now, nor was it across the board accepted as a way for women to handle anything that they had in life, whether what was right with it or what was wrong with it. And so I avoided having this experience. I couldn't afford it. It was just a lot more than I thought I needed even. What does this life coach do? And so I finally broke down and met this woman, and she started to talk to me about the very things that, I would want to do. And that would be what I'm doing now. That would be to be a thinking partner, a confidant, a champion of my client's life, basically. And that's what I do now. She assisted me to examine these areas in my life, both personal and professional, that where I was having whatever this trauma was that I thought was trauma. And she also introduced me to Dave Ellis and Falling Awake. And so I went to Dave Ellis's retreats several times. And then I decided, I like this. I think I could do this. This is what I do. I was a principal then and a teacher. So I was doing it every day in different ways. And I took Dave Ellis's life coach training that was recognized by ICF and accepted as a program that they would honor. And so I did the 15 months or however long it was in Petaluma, California, and became a life coach through Dave Ellis's program. And at that, one of their retreats, one of my coaching retreats, I met Susie, and she came with a 3x5 card. And as we were going around talking about what we were writing on our 3x5 cards, that's the life of our dreams, is what we were writing. What would you say that you would want in any area of your life to get the life of your dreams? And she wrote this 3x5 card that said, she wanted to serve women, and in a way that they would be able to get the life coaching that they needed. And that resonated with me because I was struggling to pay for a certified life coach and for the experience. And here she wanted to start a nonprofit that would allow women like me to have that experience. And I went for it that very day. Several people did. Yes, we are on board. You know, what would you want us to do? And for me, being an African American woman, there were no others there, and no others that wanted to be a part of what she was doing. And it was going to be historical in so many, many, many ways. And that's how I became a one-to-one coach. I followed Susie's 3x5 card. And once she got going, I wanted to be on board. And I started in 2006, I believe, formally having a client, a one-to-one client. So that's how I got there.
And that was 18 years ago.
Yeah.
More, but that's amazing. I mean, I bet you had no idea back then that 18 years later, this would be, oh, maybe you did. You know, did you have a sense of the arc of time this might be a part of your life?
I had no sense of it. There's one thing that was really palatable to me, and that was community. This life coaching community of women, and they were all very powerful in their individual ways. And they all had goals that were very much the same, to empower women, to have what they wanted in life. And so here, the community, and I got to go to workshops and learn new skills and practice skills with them. And we were talking the same language. If you can imagine, in 2006, not many people were talking life coach language. Like I was. It was like, I don't know, this might be woo-woo stuff. I don't know about that. And so here, all of a sudden, I could talk to someone, Katie and Kristen, like you, and you would understand what I was talking about. It didn't seem so foreign. And once I left the community, it was very hard to share these skills with other people, other women, and for them to really resonate with it. It would be like, what are you talking about, Fran? So the community of women is what I still love about one-to-one. And we're still training, we're still sharing skills, we're still coaching women. Now we're coaching women who are caretakers. It's the same, yet it has evolved into something so much bigger and better than I ever thought.
In 2014, when One-to-One decided to launch our caregiver program for the spouses of wounded veterans, you were right in there. You were one of the first coaches that were part of that group. What does that mean to you personally, to be a part of that?
Well, I really did not connect that I was one of them. It was like this light bulb came on, because I was married to a veteran who had been honorably discharged, but was disabled, not in the way some of the other women that I've coached, but not as severely disabled, but also disabled in the way that he was diagnosed with PTSD. And in a way that there were some bipolar things that were showing up as we were and being married. And I spent many years wondering what to do. And, who I could trust to talk to about, some of this. And I did not really connect that until you all one-to-one decided to take on the veterans who were caretakers. And it just came to me then how special it is that I am one of those, and one-to-one, the word saved me comes up, but it saved me in a way that I could give back and coach from experience. So that's what it meant to me, that I was paying it forward and giving back in the way that I received it as well. Yes.
Well, that connection that you had, is sort of innate. And I remember when I received my coach training, being told we often coach people on the things that we ourselves have struggled with. And whether we mean to or not, you sort of, after a certain amount of clients, realize, oh, I'm kind of attracting a lot of this, or, so it's amazing that you could be part of that too, and have those discoveries for yourself, but have that connection with them, and then to discover that with you. I think that must have been a safe environment for them.
Yes.
And there was a specific kind of training involved with that, right? That was sort of not just a normal coach training. Is that right? So because you had to understand how to deal with the visible and the invisible injuries that people are experiencing, and the secondhand trauma that the caregivers are experiencing.
And to understand, how trauma affects us and affects, women particularly, but how it impacts us in our whole life, and also how much we continue without the coaching, how much we continue on, we take on that, and we take on it, and we keep it, and we work with it, and, and we survive. But how much more I realized that I was just surviving. And sometimes that's what happens for women. We're strong and we keep on going. But we don't necessarily seek out something for us. So it's like a gift. One-to-one gives, allows a woman to give herself that gift, to be able to help her and support her.
Fran, how does it make you feel when you hear that a former client has gone on to do great things? I've talked to some of your clients, and they absolutely rave about you, but the connection that they have, you can see how special and important that is. And then, we hear the stories of what they're going on to do. How does that make you feel?
I think it's just, it is just wonderful, because one of the things I want to always do is provide a sacred space, is what I call it, a sacred space for my clients, so that they know I am a confidant and I am a champion for them. And you can't help but develop a partnership, because that's pretty much who I am. When I look at who I am as an essential, who I am as a sensual self, I am loving, and I am dedicated to whatever I do lovingly. And I'm also very dedicated to partnerships. That's why I'm in one-to-one, because we're partners. The clients and I are partners, so to speak. And, being able to help one woman at a time all over the universe. And so I become a partner with these women, and they know partnership is I take that very seriously. It's like skin touching skin. It's very, very serious to me. that people know that my safe space is where they can ask uncomfortable questions about social justice. They can talk about mistakes they've made. They can plan, can, I mean, just explore the whole gamut of, what they want to do in a sacred space. And so you do develop loving relationships and partnerships with women for life. And that's what I want. I've got my vision statement says, I want to create paradise with each and every person that I'm with, such that who I am being when I'm with you. So when I say paradise, it does look like the blues and the greens of the ocean. Those are my colors in my business. But it also, who I am being when I'm with you, creates this ripple effect across the universe. So that Katie and Kristen, when I'm with you, that you feel something and you go, you learn something from me, and we learn something from each other, and then you go and share that with somebody else. That's the partnership as well. And then that ripple effect goes across the universe. And then for me, I want it to create these endless possibilities of both peace and wholeness, and just endless possibility for social justice. So that's my vision statement. I kind of went around also, but that's why I feel I still contact my clients just to check in. And you know, they send me back 1 or 2 statements, and they're always glad to hear from me, just to check.
Amazing. I happen to have spoken recently to somebody who was, so I think one of the important touch points that you've been part of at One to One is reintroducing Life by Design when we brought it back. I know that you helped kind of develop it, take Dave Ellis's material way back, and you did workshops. Can you tell us a little bit about that arc? Because what I've just to put the period on the end of this sentence on my side is that I talked to somebody who was in one of your recent cohorts for Life by Design, our workshop. And she was just singing your praises and was so excited to hear that we were honoring you. And she's like telling me how she pulls out her cards all the time, and she pulls out her tree all the time, and all the tools that she loves. And she has now started her own business, and she uses the tools with her clients.
Yes, yeah.
That ripple effect you were talking about is so
ripple effect. Yes, yes.
So will you talk a little bit about how you started working on Life by Design and what you did with it back then? I think it was about 14 years ago or something.
Yeah, it was. Penny Hazen and I did probably 9 retreats together here in North Carolina. And we named them, of course, different things. And we were sitting down, just batting around, what would we name what we do? What would we say what we do as coaches? I named my business Seeing Ourselves Anew, because once we work on coaching skills and techniques and some of the things that you see in Life by Design, you see yourself differently. You see yourself anew. If there were social justice issues that you wanted to work through and talk about, in the end, you see yourself anew. And so Penny and I would just, what would we call this thing that we do? And of course, we had many things, redesigning life. I think we had manifesting life one time, was one of the retreats. And so we just kept batting this around. And what it is what the title says. It is life by how you design it. And it is exactly what we teach in Life by Design. And so to see it come full circle and to be able to teach it, that first week, I was so excited I couldn't sleep the night before, because it is full circle. And it is what One to One is. And it is what Susie wanted in the beginning. And it is what we're doing now, so that we've never lost that flavor. We've always improved what we do, and I love that. I love that we've tried new things, as a one-to-one organization. And I love the change. I love the new board members. I love all of that part, because we are still helping women design their life, instead of just responding to the circumstances of life. So that's what that meant to me. It was full circle. And it is exactly what I'm still doing every day, is designing my life.
So if I may, just a follow-up, do you have a favorite tool? Maybe it's part of Life by Design, maybe it's something else, a coaching tool that is just like a go-to for you when that you kind of either in everyday life or when you have a new client, anything you like to?
I like the backwards design. I think that's what I've done probably the most, to see, to write a 3x5 card, to see it and to really own it, and then start from there and design my life or the experiences backwards, if you would.
Right. It's going from the future backwards, seeing
the
it,
future backwards.
visualization, seeing it done, seeing yourself having done it, right? And then working back and saying, what did I do right before that to do that? And then, right, isn't that what the tool you're
That's
talking
exactly. It's
Yeah.
exactly how I got my doctorate, because I was 62 years old when I got my doctorate. And so there were 4 people in the classroom that were not born in my cohort, that weren't born when I finished my first master's degree. And here they were, and here I am. And the idea was, this gray hair is not gonna make it. You are not, you've got to have plenty of strength to do this. And just the power of seeing myself in that road, because I was working at a university then, and I saw their robes, and I always wanted to do that for me, ladies. I did not have to get the degree. I was already retired from the school system. I had already had 31 years of a career. I was one of 7 people. All of them had degrees, and I did not. Had a PhD, and I did not. But I had been working there 7 years without it. And so it wasn't something that I had to have. And I wanted it for me. I gave all of my life for everybody else to be able to get their education and their degrees. And I always wanted it for me. Always wanted it for me. 3 years after I got it, maybe 4 years after I got it, I retired again. So it was for Fran. It was lovingly giving me just a whole new way of being. And it was exactly what I wanted for me.
That is an amazing gift that you gave yourself. That makes me feel so good.
Yeah.
I remember very well when I think Penny Hazen announced that you were getting your PhD, and we were so proud of you and so excited. So glad to hear that you did that for yourself.
Yes, yes. Not many people know that.
And I want to talk about your teaching, and that now that you're teaching your social justice and me class, can you talk to us about what it is and what it means to you to be able to continue to teach that?
I started out life as a civil rights baby, and I lived in the Jim Crow South. And so I take great pride in telling stories of my lived experiences, as well as teaching about how to empower ourselves to be greater and to make greater contributions to the world in social justice. And so I use my storytelling to help students and other clients answer two questions. Who am I? That's the life coaching part. And who am I as a social justice being? So that's life coaching from a whole different lens, because I provide a safe space again, a sacred space where you can ask uncomfortable questions, where you can avoid any of the mistakes that happened before in your world, where you can examine, how you grew up, what your experiences were, what your experiences were not. And so I started teaching this course that I wrote at the university so that people could answer those two questions. And the self-discovery empowers them to see themselves anew. So they see this, they look at discrimination and oppression and what social justice is through the lens of their lives, not what's wrong with the world, but through their own lens. So I started out in my dissertation because my dissertation became an award-winning dissertation on social justice, dispositions. How do you feel about social justice? And out of my dissertation, I wrote the course for people to be able to discover who they are as social justice beings. So I put myself out there first as an African-American woman. I talked about my lived experiences. I talked about my biases, my prejudices, how I was biased and prejudiced against white people. And I tell my stories of how that came about. And then I asked myself, who do I want to be as a social justice being? Based on those experiences and those stories I had. And what I do is discuss what worked for me, how I came away from my biases and my own discrimination. And then I help people translate that lesson into a roadmap for themselves in this course. And it's a process that helps them to move forward, to look at something like George Floyd with a different lens, not a blame me lens, not an accuse you lens, but a lens of how do you really feel and what do you really value about social justice. And as I'm doing it, I'm also using all of the life coaching skills that we're doing. All of the tools we do in Life by Design, I could definitely do them in my course. I definitely use, I definitely have them to write goals. So that would be, what is the life of your dreams? Goals about how you want to be, goals about your disposition. I ask the questions, who am I? And in that first part of the course, the who am I, involves your essential self. How do you identify what's in your name? What is the meaning of your name? And who is I help them to organize their life almost in a graphic organizer that says, who are you? So I'd say, Katie, who are you? And who are you? So tell about your family. So tell about your education. How are you educated? Tell about your neighborhood. What was the racial makeup in all of those? What were your challenges and all? So you're telling your story and not anybody else's. And what comes up, there's so many realizations that people don't even think about. Because if you say, tell me who you are. If I ask you that just out of the blue, you would come up with some things that are really good. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter. That's how you identify. But how do you identify? I mean, deep down, identify. From my stories, I am a Negro, I am Black, and I am African American. That's how I identify. But I'm also audacious. And when I say that, then I can come back with life coaching skills. Am I really being audacious? Even though I identify with that. Yeah, the word activity we did the other day, Katie, was awesome. Because that's exactly what that is. Who am I? It's just a drill down of who am I? And so I say I'm McDonald's, you know, that all beef sandwich, all beef thing. Well, I'm the special sauce.
I mean, two all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese.
I'm the
onions on a
special,
sausage
that's
bun. Yeah, I
it.
got it.
You got it, Katie.
You just invited me to do one of my favorite things.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what comes out of the course.
Yeah.
Because that's who Katie is. And so when we're in a course together, we learn to realize that there is nothing wrong with me being different from someone else or from them being different with me. But the course is about being aware of differences.
Mm.
The course is about understanding differences, and they're there. So I don't ask a young person who is 18 years old and who has lived in a rural area all of their lives, and whose parents do not want them to integrate with a Black person. I don't ask them to change that value. What they do in the course is to have a different understanding about why that's there. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but how do you really feel? What do you really value? Do you really value that? Is that what you really want? Then you're clear about it. But you also get to hear who I am as a Black female and to have a different understanding about me and who I am. So that's the course. It's I do it now at universities. I love that because I am impacting 19-year-olds. And they start out with a way of thinking about this whole notion of social justice and race. We don't only talk about race, we talk about sexual orientation, that's social justice. We talk about class and poverty. We talk about ability and disability. We talk about appearance, which is huge, color of skin, size, weight. Those are social justice issues. We talk about gender issues, particularly with women. And every single time we're exploring any of those, they are present in the news and in our world. And it helps students to get a different understanding. So that's all the course is. Answer those two questions. Who am I? And who am I as a social justice being? So you get a whole different understanding about someone that is different from you.
And I think timeliness of this course is, you couldn't, I mean, I think you could teach it. What has it, are you seeing more kids, more university kids coming through and wanting to answer these types of questions?
Absolutely. And what I'm also seeing, since I've done it, I wrote the course in my way in 2015, but I started teaching parts of it so that it would be a part of my dissertation before then. And probably when I started, I'd say 2006 at the university, and I didn't do the doctorate to 2015. Now, 4 years, 5 years later, students are ready to talk about this. They aren't hesitant. They feel they're knowledgeable, particularly about sexual orientation, about how they identify. They're very knowledgeable about that, and who they are as social justice being about sexual orientation. And so I do have students that come out to me who feel comfortable with saying, this is who I really am. And it's not my job to say who you are or you are not. That's not what this course is about. It's not to convince them to love Black people or to become Christians or to become Muslims or to become atheists. It's not about that. It is about embracing who you are and making sure you have the life of your dreams what your values are and what's going to give you the life of your dreams. So it's totally life coaching to me. And I just combined the two of them.
Yeah, I think when you said it's two questions, but you actually at some point when we were speaking before, you said the third question, which I think is actually really that brings in that coaching piece. You said, who do I want to be as a social justice being? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really powerful to sort of allow people to understand who they are, like to take the snapshot and who they are right now and to reflect on all of those things that brought them there. And then also to open up this door to something else without blame or guilt or shame or anything, but to own it, as you said, and align it with their values, not just, it goes back to what you said before about not living a life of circumstance, saying we're going to live a life by our design.
Yeah. And in that life coaching, isn't that a part of our philosophy is one-to-one? In our way of being. I love it. I just love it.
Yeah. So, you did give us a little bit of an answer to this, but you did say, who am I? And you started to elaborate a little bit. We haven't really gone into who you are, what your family, where you are, all the things. I know your mother is very much alive and part of your life, and that's incredible that you have her. Can you tell, for those people out there watching who don't know you the way that Krista and I are lucky enough to, tell all of them a little bit more about you? Who are you?
Wow. I was born in Hampton, Virginia. My mother and father went to a very historic Black college, and it was called Hampton Institute then in Hampton, Virginia. It's now called Hampton University. And where we lived in Hampton, there were all kinds of military bases. I mean, everything, Air Force, Langley Airfield, which is no longer there. And my mother and father worked at Fort Monroe Army Base. And so here's the full cycle when you're talking about full circle of one-to-one. So I was surrounded by water as well as all of these different military people and military bases, and started growing up there in Hampton, Virginia. And then when my father died, we moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, to my grandmother's house. And she had this huge farm. I was a city girl, and my mother had me, when I was young, go on Sunday afternoons. She dressed us up in these beautiful dresses with crinoline slips up under them, and the white socks with the little lace around them, and Black patent leather shoes. That's all I ever owned, was Black patent leather shoes. And we would go to Miss White's house, and she would read Machiavelli and Shakespeare and Langston Hughes and all of this poetry that I hadn't a clue what she was talking about. It made no sense to me, but my mother wanted us to be exposed to those things that would make us critically think and that would prepare us for a world beyond our segregated world. So I lived totally in an all-Black community. I never went to integrated schools. To all Black schools. I never had all I had was Black teachers up until I went to Winston-Salem State, which was still very much a segregated a historically Black college and university, very much all Black. There were white students who went to college there, but they lived off campus. They came and took their courses and they left. They weren't a part of the culture that was there. And so 2 years before I came to school, to college, my father, who worked with my godfather, they were legal redress for NAACP. Exactly what happened to him that night is still very questionable and was never solved, because the culture also during that time was Black folk. I don't care if your parents could buy you nice, beautiful dresses with crinoline slips. There was a time when you should be silent. And so silence could keep you from experiencing the Jim Crow South. And so the last breath of my father and the last night of my father's life is questionable. That at some point, he had gone to the police station. For what reason and for what happened, the questions are always and will always be there. That was in 1968. And so in my mind, as long as I lived, a white policeman left my father on the front porch of our home. And the next morning, his lifeless body was there. And so in my mind, I was also old enough to remember. I was getting ready to turn 15 years old, and to remember and to know. And so the stories that I tell as a part of the social justice helps my students understand where my prejudices came from and where my pain was. So I help other people with their pain through this. I think I said to you, Katie, it's almost like helping them heal through any of their trauma. That's what I do. I help women heal, because that's what it did for me. It helped me to heal. So I tell that story, and you know, having lost a father and not knowing what happened, just really, really takes something. It just takes something. And then 2 years later, I went to college, and I stayed in my all segregated society. And so my dissertation tells you this story. And it tells you the story of at Winston-Salem State University, I met this white professor who really told me the real things. She wasn't making it pretty. She told me what it would be like for me to be a teacher in this world. And I didn't want to be in that world. I mean, why would I want to be in the world, that world? Why would I want to teach white children? Because at that time, I had never seen them. I'd never been around them. I never lived that life with. I wanted to teach my own. And she told me what the real deal was going to be like, what I was going to experience. Again, you all, this was during the time that Martin Luther King was trying to get us to have the right to vote, So I'm talking about a whole different time that I experienced. And, she helped me to get ready to teach. And so then I started teaching these beautiful children who often said things like, I love you, Miss Bates, because you look like Nana. But I knew they loved Nana, and I knew what that meant. But they were just beautiful, and they just hold on to your legs. And I taught kindergarten my first 8 years. So you see how God ordered those steps so that I could have the opportunity to love and to heal and to learn and to see a whole different world. So that's what the dissertation is about. And that's how I saw myself anew. I learned to see myself anew through a whole different set of lenses. And my white professor at my all Black university helped me to see that. So now I'm a Black professor, an African-American professor, and I'm helping white students see that world through their own lens, the way I did, and to see themselves anew as well. And so it also affected the men I chose in life. And I think that's a wonderful point with me in my coaching, because some caretakers struggle with that choice that they made. And I can help them to understand and see themselves differently in that choice. And I've had every degree you can think of, because in my world, I had to understand the white world in order to be successful. So I had to do what is called double consciousness, W.E. Du Bois, double consciousness. I had to put on the lens and see myself as the white world saw me. And so I can help students now see through a different lens, to see themselves different. And that's what I do. I've got 6 degrees, and I've been teaching 48 years, and I've worked with over 250 student teachers, and the numbers, I can just keep going on. And so that's a snapshot of my life and how my lived experiences got me through to coach.
Thank you for sharing all of that. That's deeply personal and, really powerful, obviously. And I know that from other conversations we've had that you're still, and I know from losing a father so young and in the way that you did, that there's just a lifetime of processing and learning, and it's, I'm sure those are all wounds and gifts you bring to people in your life, and that vulnerability is powerful. Thank you. And I'm so sorry that happened. Obviously, so sorry that happened.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And Fran, we exchanged that email a couple of years ago. You came to our board meeting for one-to-one and told your story, and it was in the middle, we were still in the middle of the pandemic, and George Floyd had happened. We were all, we were all at a questioning point. We were at, it's like such a tipping point, and I had not cried for months. The pandemic had just done something and squashed it. And you told your stories, and that brought me to tears, and I don't know how to explain it. And we exchanged a couple of emails, and I just, again, want to thank you, because it changed something in me. And I don't even know how to put it into words, but it's just, you are an amazing person, and you were clearly put here to do this work. And I see this path as you're explaining it, and it means even more to me. So
Thank you.
being a part of my life.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And so you see what I want to give. I turned 70 years old this year. And one of the things that I've been working with myself is the whole notion of, having lived 70 years, really something to me, having lived 70 years. And then I also went to that little side that says, okay, Fran, you don't have that much time left. What you gonna do? You gotta do this and this and that. And I realized that what I am doing is what there is to do. My journey is my journey, and it is what it is to do. And if I can move, not if, I want to. And I said that in my vision and mission statement, and that's, they're pretty much together, because my mission is each and every person I'm with, that I impact them in that way, Kristen. And that's what I want to do, for the rest of my life. I want to be a light. I want to be a light, for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Well, you are that for all of us at One to One, and that is why we were all of us, so thrilled. And I know the two of us get to speak on behalf of this whole entire big organization, 18 years of an organization, who have had each of them different touch points with you, different connections. I always think about what you were describing, what people often describe when they talk about the arc of their life, is something that I think you see a golden thread, but with you, it's golden tentacles and a golden braid or something else altogether. And that's why people were so thrilled that we, got to honor you. And I heard that recently it looked like you were being honored elsewhere too, just coincidentally in this same time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
On Thursday of this week, I am going to be the first recipient of, it's called David Pay Lifetime Service Award, Education Lifetime Service Award. And he is 93 years old, and he has served the same university, our alma mater, for more years than I have. And so the award was named in his honor. He is still living. And I get to be the first recipient of that award. And for lifetime, when I was saying all those numbers, it's a lifetime. It is full circle. It is what I spent my entire life doing, now that I've thought about it. And actually my remarks, which are about 5 minutes long, are called Coming Full Circle. So when you said that, Katie, I smiled, because that's confirmation.
Well, thank you for bringing all of that amazing, all of your gifts to One to One. I know we're all very lucky to have you in this organization and now on the board. And, I know we're just also lucky to learn from you and get to know you. And I've just loved, obviously, I've loved getting to know you through Life by Design and Power Hours. You just jumped into all the different, you've probably played all the different roles, worn all the different hats at different times. And I know that you're deeply connected to all the women who've helped found One to One. And just Susie, we keep talking about Susie, but just to be clear, we're talking about Susie Strauss.
Yes.
And, I don't know if it's not who also is still, very much involved. And but really, we obviously would never be here without you. So thank you. That's our way of
thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm very humbled by being recognized by the community that I love. I'm very humbled by that.
Well, thank you for being with us today and being so willing to share your amazing story. It's really, truly inspiring.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
So for that, from One to One, I'm Kristen Lemke with Katie Albert and Dr. Fran Bates Oates. Thanks for joining us today.